All right, so I'm here with Todd from Elo Life Systems, right down the street from us in the park. We're really excited to have you on the Pulling Focus podcast, and I wanted to say welcome.
Hey, great. Thanks for having us, Riley. It's great to be here.
Definitely. So why don't we start out the way we always start out with hearing just a little bit about you and the organization and what you all do kind of in a nutshell, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the more specifics.
Sure. Well, if you'd like to know more about Elo, it's all about the power of plants, the power to change the world using plants that make healthier ingredients, healthier foods. And while we're at it, we want to make the environment more sustainable to improve food production and make sure that the way we're producing our food, which is just as important as the health that it provides us, is also helping the planet.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful mission, and I think something that is becoming more and more on the forefront of people's minds is just what they're putting in their bodies. Could you tell me just a little bit about how you've seen just the food industry change over the past, 5 to 10 years, and sort of how Elo fits into that picture?
It's really intuitive. What you just said is exactly right. It's what consumers are paying attention to. I think they're more tuned in to the foods they eat, where they come from, the impact that those choices have, more than they've ever been in the history of our food system. And that's driving a lot of changes. They don't depend on food companies to tell them what they should be eating, or they have the access to the information, the science, the details about what everything is doing in the food system that they can figure out for themselves. And that's driving their choices and the changes in our food system. And that's good for Elo. That's what we're all about, is giving consumers what they want. Things that taste great, but also give them that healthier option and are better for the environment, so they can feel good about what they're eating when they make those choices.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about the specific capabilities of Elo. I know there's a research component to it. But yeah, just tell me a little bit more about like what the day-to-day looks like on site and just here in the park or wherever else there's operations.
Sure. We're mostly located right here in Research Triangle, but in these days, as everyone has, we have a number of other folks remotely. COVID's changed the world in that sense, but most of our day-to-day activities are right here in Research Triangle. And what you'll notice most about Elo if you walk in our door is that sense of enthusiasm and excitement, not just to be a startup, but because of what we're doing and the impact it's having. Our teams feel that because they can talk to their neighbors about new foods that are coming to their grocery stores, to their dinner tables. They understand and they're motivated by making those kinds of healthier foods and more sustainable foods that are exciting. It's something that brings the science to a reality that it's going to literally be on their dinner tables and feed their families. And that's incredibly motivating. So the first thing you sense is that enthusiasm all around the operations and the R&D. And then as you look at what we're doing day to day, we're full of all sorts of just diverse species of plants. We have tomatoes and melons and bananas and cucumbers and potatoes and sugar beets, all growing in our greenhouses, where we're starting to figure out all the ways to make healthier ingredients using basically what nature's given us.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's a lot of companies out there that are striving after an impact, and just from hearing about what you all do, it's a very tangible impact. Like the food that we're eating, you can see the work that you're doing, how that connects. One of the things we really like to focus on here with our team is just sharing stories, and stories are some of the best ways to understand just who a person is or what a company is trying to do. And I'm curious, are there any stories that stand out for you just in the time that you've been with the company of just a very tangible impact that you've made? Maybe it's with a specific food or a specific thing that you've done, or a use case or case study of something that's happened.
Yeah, maybe one of the most impactful things I saw as I came on board was the power of nature to teach us and use it as a guide. And so, as scientists, our teams are trained to figure out all the elements and how to put them together and how to make them work together. And then you put things in a living cell in a plant, and it doesn't always work the way you expect. and you don't understand why. But nature has this incredible diversity and all of these other parts that you may not have been aware of or even known to look for. And as you start putting things together and working in different crops and different plants, you learn something about how nature operates and what it is capable of doing. And then you can pull those elements back out and say, okay, we just learned something here in this one crop, let's say in tomato, and we can now use this to solve an even bigger problem in another crop, like a banana. And so we're constantly learning from nature, and we never forget that. We think we know all the things we need to know, and nature has this funny way of telling us things, if we're listening, that are even more important than what we thought we knew.
Yeah, and you mentioned bananas before we started recording. Are we able to talk a little bit more about that effort going on right now?
Sure, it's a huge part of what we're doing and our mission to make nutrition more accessible. The banana crop, if you've followed any of the recent press, you'll see this disease is slowly wiping out all of the production acres of that delicious yellow banana that you enjoy in the grocery stores today. And it's essentially a threat from extinction. If we don't do something and do something very soon, that banana is going to go away. And as you know, thousands of people, I mean, just every culture of the world depends on that for a delicious, nutritious food in their diets. Elo's come in and partnered with Dole, who most people know from a big fruit company, to find a solution that will save that crop from extinction. And we're well on our way to doing that. We have a number of resistant banana lines now deployed in Central America where they're testing it in the real world conditions to make sure it works. And in the very near future, I think we'll have a solution that is going to save that crop. And that's fundamental to what Elo does, is making nutrition more accessible, making crops more resilient to climate change and to those types of threats. And we have a number of projects that help us do that in crops that matter in lots of countries of the world, like Africa, not just the things you see in the U.S., but elsewhere in the world.
That's fantastic. That sounds like a really, really interesting project, and I had no idea that that was happening with bananas. I'm wondering, are there any misconceptions that people have about just agriculture or where their food is coming from? Maybe any like misconceptions they have about like the industry you're in. Yeah, just wondering if there's sort of any like clarity you could provide on things that you might be hearing from just your average Joe when it comes to what you all do.
I think consumers more broadly are learning about where their food comes from. They want to understand the traceability of it, so that when they see ingredients in foods, they know what the impact of producing that ingredient was. And as we talk to a lot of food companies, they're all working through the environmental impact of every single ingredient in their supply chain because consumers are demanding that. And so they expect that traceability. They want to know what farms that these foods came from. That matters in their story of how they're impacting with their food choices, the environment and also the livelihood of farmers. So it's an exciting time because that knowledge is increasing. And that's what we're seeing is the trend is more and more attention is being paid to how food is made, where it's made, who made it. And that's exciting.
Definitely. Another question I have is how come Elo is here in the Research Triangle?
So Elo was born out of another company, which was a big pharmaceutical company, and they had this little ag division, and they were based here in Research Triangle. But then when it was time to spin Elo out as its own standalone company, they saw the opportunity to stay right here. There's incredible resources that we see in the Research Triangle area. The universities, their ag research, their biotech capabilities, and you end up with a great resource here in terms of the workforce with a highly educated, sophisticated biotech population that we can recruit from. A lot of other companies are here. So there was a lot working for us. The resources and the infrastructure was here. And of course, the culture and the lifestyle is a great selling point. We really spend a lot of time recruiting and have a much better recruiting point here because it's more affordable. You can actually raise a family here as opposed to San Francisco, where we have a lot of similar companies to ours. So it's just a great place to bring people in, to get them established, and then they don't want to leave because they really enjoy living here in this area.
Definitely. And if we go 10 years in the future, I'm wondering, in your words, looking back 10 years from now at Elo, what would success look like? If you looked back and you said, we did a really good job and this was a success, what would it take to get to that point?
Yeah, well, for sure. Success for us is I walk in here with a basket of products for you to eat and to taste and to sample, and that's where we're going to be. But ultimate success is eliminating chronic diseases from our lives because the food choices we have are healthier. That's what Elo is going to be delivering. And agriculture can help make the planet more sustainable. So when we produce ingredients and we do it in different ways, we rethink and reimagine the supply chains and how we produce the food, we're able to solve problems in whole new ways. That just opens more and more opportunities up. And so when I think of the future, I'm imagining a world where food production is a solution to climate change, to environmental issues we're dealing with today. Food choices are a solution to better health, that consumers can still get all of the things they crave, all that taste and sweetness and everything else, but actually feel better about the choices they're making because they have more options.
Yeah, that's a fantastic mission. And I've got two more questions for you. The first one is, you personally, what's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part is just the energy of our teams. I come in every day and I'm looking for ways to motivate, to be excited by the work we're doing. And it all starts with teams and people. And so I spend most of my time working closely with the individuals, helping them feel the vision and excitement for what we're doing. And then I get that same in return when they make breakthroughs and they're so excited to come running in and tell me something new that they've learned or discovered, and it just energizes me even more. And I put a lot of emphasis on our teams and how we work together, how we trust each other, and that drives us.
Yeah, that's awesome. It really does sound like a great culture over there. And then the last question that I ask all of the guests is, what are you excited about, or what's coming in the next year or so that you're really looking forward to or just encouraged by when it comes to the organization?
Well, we're in the process of growing rapidly and expanding, and that's exciting. So we've doubled our space. We're just in the process of building that out. We're launching a number of new products, and we're bringing partners in, commercial partners, companies you've heard of, big beverage and food companies who are really interested in working with the ingredients that we're making. And that brings something real to the science. It's not just bench work anymore and in the labs. This is now going into foods and beverages that people are going to see in the grocery stores. And that gets super exciting at that point because now you can see the impact of what you're doing in the labs actually showing up in the real world. That is what I'm most excited about.
That's incredible. Yeah, and if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about what you all are doing, or maybe is looking for an opportunity with your company or what have you, what would be the best place to find information?
Well, the first place you can start, we have a lot of resources on our website at elolife.com. And there's some great videos and other documents and things that we've made available so people can understand the problems we're solving, but more importantly, why we're focused on those problems. And that's a great starting point for learning about Elo.
Incredible. Well, Todd, thank you so much for your time. To those watching and listening, definitely check out what's going on over at Elo. We'll have the link in the bio or the link in the description of the video. And I just want to say thank you for your time again, and just we'll be following the incredible growth and progress.
Well, thank you, Riley. It's an ongoing story, so I hope we get a chance to do this again. But this was great to sit down with you today.
Awesome.